Mind the gap. Jesus. Yeah, these are my old LMS coaches from 1970 something or other. Yeah, I mean that gap. I don't know what Hornby were thinking of back in the day. I mean it's just horrendous. I know there are close couplings that you can fit to the more modern coaches. I mean these are more modern intercity coaches here. And look at that, they're almost buffer to buffer. That's how it should be. So in these newer coaches, the bogies are, well, they're not riveted in, you can pull them off, and they're also sat a little bit further back. I can't point because I'm holding the phone and I'm holding this at the same time. But you know, the bogies are sat a little bit further back from the buffers, if you like, and that allows for much closer coupling. On the old coaches, the bogies are riveted in, so I mean that's a bit of an issue if you want to try and take them off to fit the close coupling systems that you can buy nowadays. And also the position of them. They're further forward, which separates the coaches more. So I've tried a few things to resolve this. I've tried the sort of the concertina gangways that you can get, and they work fine along a straight like that, or even down the curves, but as soon as you go over points, if I just manually change these points just now. Let's look at this from above and see what happens. So as soon as you go over points like that, see what happens? See the separation you get between the coaches? You know, at that point, there's absolutely no way that those gangways are going to do anything but derail your coaches. As well as the gap, the coaches also, you know, move back and forward an awful lot. They're very loose. I thought the solution to this is to fix that so they don't do that. You know, that they're fixed as close as they can be, and then just fill up the gap somehow. And that's exactly what I've done with my BR coaches. I just think that looks a lot better than that with the big gaps. So, if you're interested, keep watching and I'll show you exactly what I did. Before I go any further, a little bit of a disclaimer here. This will affect the coupling and uncoupling of your coaches a little bit. I would imagine they'll uncouple okay, but to get them to couple correctly, I usually have to sort of hold them together and then just push down with the screwdriver just to get them to clip into place. There's no real damage going to be done to these. Going to doctor the couplings a little bit, but I'm not damaging the coaches in any way. So you know, you could undo this relatively easily by just replacing the coupling. But anyway, let's just show you what I did. But before I actually show you, I'll just go over the principle of what I'm going to do. So looking at the couplings, you can see it's a kind of hook. It's got a better pointy thing. So it's that little hook bit there I'm going to remove from the coupling. Then once I've done that, I bend the couplings into sort of an S shape just to reduce the length of them. I dare say it would be possible to cut these and glue them shorter, but I find that if you bend them, it allows for a little bit of trial and error in getting the position right, and it allows you to adjust them, you know, loosen the coupling off or tighten it up as required. Whereas if you were to glue it into place and just shorten the coupling hook, you might make it too short and then your coupling's kind of screwed. Extending the gangways, I just use some card left over from a Metcalf kit. I can cut it to shape. I actually have some of the these little concertina gangway things that are absolutely useless, but they're handy as a template for the shape that you require. If you don't have those, you can just line up your coach and draw around your cardboard or do it on a bit of paper or whatever, but basically you just need to trace that shape. But with that, I can put that on, and actually the reason I use these is because the strips are almost the perfect width already. So it's minimal cutting. I just have to cut the corners and along the bottom and it's job done. And I need to make 2 for each end of the coach. Now, I'm doing this to a rake of 3 coaches, 2 composites and a brake, and you only need to doctor the couplings for the middle coach. There's no need to doctor the couplings for the front composite and the brake coach. You just need to doctor these couplings. But you will need to put gangway extensions on this end and that end, and also on the ends of the other 2 coaches to close up the 2 gaps. Okay, so I'm going to cut the hooks off. I'm just holding the coupling with a pair of pliers, and I'm going to use a rotary tool to cut just that little end of the hook, not the whole thing. It's kind of hard to show you this on camera, but you'll see what I mean, I think, when I start doing this. I'm just going to grind it down rather than cut it. The other one. What's that done? Okay, you can see what I've done to the coupling there. It's just taken that little hook off. So if I now bend this back, now this looks pretty drastic, I know, but honestly it's perfectly safe to do. I was worried about this snapping, but it doesn't. So initially I'm bending this back and then forward again, there. So it's kind of making it an S shape. Just test it, see if it works. So that's not tight enough. So you can almost bend this right back at a right angle and then just bend that bit forward again. So basically all you're doing is shortening the length of that coupling. So if I bring this forward now, that's actually too short. But I probably can actually just push this on, and this is where the screwdriver comes in. There we go. That's perfect actually. So all we have to do is put 2 cut pieces of card on that side and 2 on that side, and it will close it up quite nicely. It doesn't close completely, but you don't want it to close completely, because then you will get issues going around the tightest radius curves and over points and things. So you need a little bit of a gap, but that is how you get it closer and reduce the amount of play between the coaches. So we'll do the same again to this end that we cut the hook off, and again just make an initial bend as far as it'll go, and then get a hold of the front bit and bend that forward again. Can be a wee bit of a fiddle, but you'll get it. And once you think you've got it, just bring in your other coach and see what happens. If it drops down straight away, you've probably not got it tight enough. So bend it back again. It really needs to be bent right back. And then bend that forward again. And there we go. So we've bent our couplings. Now we just need to make the gangway extensions, or whatever you want to call them. Now, 2 gaps, 3 coaches, that's 2, 4, 6, 8 bits of card I'm going to need, because I know with this particular card that I'm using, which is just an offcut from a Metcalf kit, I know that 2 layers of that card does, so I need to make you know, 2 cutout shapes for each end of each gap. Now, as I say, I'm using these as a kind of guide, but you could mark it out. But these strips from the Metcalf kit are actually the perfect width, and all I need to do is just lop off the corners like so. I mean, you could take a bit of time and, dare say, knock something up that looks a bit better, but life's too short. Yeah, that's the shape you're after. Right, yeah, to stick these on, I just stick them on with a little bit of craft glue like Yoo-hoo or something, just a couple of wee spots, so they could come off easily and you could clean up the coach if you wanted to undo this. But you could stick them on with blue tack or whatever. So once you've got one cut out, you need to cut others. I'm going to have to cut 8 of them. So now that I've cut 2, these will both get stuck together. And the 2 being stuck together actually makes it look a little bit better than if it was just one big thick piece of card. You get a little bit of ridging at the side, which helps to add to the effect. Sorry, one thing I should have said is the thickness of this is quite critical. You want this to be about 2.5 millimeters thick. So I'm using 2 pieces of card here, but once they're stuck together, that is 2.5 millimeters. So by the time you bring in the other one, you're actually reducing the gap between the coaches by 5 millimeters. So you have your 2 bits of card, or you have, if you've got a piece of card that's 2.5 mil thick, good for you. But I actually prefer to stick these together. So I need to make 4 of these. So I'll just go ahead and do that right now. So there are my 4 gang extensions, and it's just a case of sticking them onto the coaches. So I'm just going to use just a few wee spots of Yoo-hoo, which is easily cleaned off if need be. So just put it on the extension like so. Just make sure it's in a good position, and that'll do. Same for the other end. This is the middle coach I'm doing, so there's one on each end. So one on that end, and one on that end. And then we have to do one end of the front coach. So make sure your coaches are, you know, depending on the type of coach they are, you've got the side corridor, make sure you've got them the right way around. So it's this end I want to put an extension on. And the brake coach obviously just goes on one end. So now all we need to do is paint them. Any black paint will do. I think on my VR coaches I used a matte black paint, which actually, nah, you're better off with gloss. And just whack it on. It's much easier to paint after you've stuck it onto the coaches than trying to paint it first, because you would then have to wait. So it's just much quicker to paint it while it's on the coaches. And there we go. That's one painted on. And we just have to do the others. And there we go, job done. Not much, not too much clay, a little bit, but you need a tiny wee bit. And there is still a gap, but it's kind of a necessity to have a little bit of a gap to allow enough clay. Let's go and see what this looks like on the layout. Okay, so here it comes, and yeah, I think that looks a little bit better than it did. Been doing a bit more work to the layout. Still working on little gardens for these little houses here. I've put these dikes in, these dry stone dikes, and some hedges. There's some nice hedges going in, and some heather in the hill there. So it's slowly but surely coming on. Got to do a lot more work yet though. And trees, I need to get busy with trees. I think I'm going to have to make my own, I think. But yeah. And painting in my river, that's going to get glossed over. But yeah, trees and bushes and stuff like that, that's what we need to get on with. See you later, folks.